And you've also got some Chinese maritime militia coming down from the north to add to this first line of defense that's formed here.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Donald Trump has already withdrawn security guarantees for America's allies in Europe. He now runs a maritime monitoring unit at Stanford University.
Violating China's terror airspace. Leave now. Leave immediately. This is Chinese Naval Warship 552.
So we do a lot of ship tracking. We try to keep up with where China is deploying. In particular, China is deploying its maritime militia in China.
Sealight has charted a massive build-up since the summer of 2023. So it's like a busy military highway in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and I would say, up until a couple years ago, this would have been much, much quieter.
2 Chinese destroyers at 27 knots. No radio hail. A U.S. destroyer that refuses to flinch. You clicked for that moment, this is it. At a minimum CPA of 2.7 nautical miles, USS John Finn keeps course while CIC tags the contact Sierra 09 and Sierra 12 and the SLQ 32 drinks in every emission. Why choose passive observation over a hard turn or a warning shot? Stay with me, because tonight the primary weapon is data, not missiles, and I'll show you exactly how the Seahawk's green laser and MX 20 feet turned a rush into a retreat. A rush at 27 knots stopped cold without a shot. The turn came at 2.7 nautical miles, but the trigger wasn't steel. It was a detail. USS John Finn holds a steady FONOP track, bow on to the lanes that matter. 2 Type 052D destroyers close from the northwest, fast, silent on the radio. Overhead, a Seahawk rides at 600 feet with a lateral offset under a mile, feeding eyes to the ship without crowding the airspace. But then the vectors tighten. No hail. No bridge-to-bridge courtesy. The projected closest point slides from 5 miles to under 3 as the opposing radars click from broad search to active surface track. That shift isn't noise. It's intent testing the edge. CIC turns speed into signal. Sierra 09. Sierra 12. Course, speed, bearing correlated and time stamped, every tweak in helm or throttle logged like a cockpit voice recorder for the sea. Track classification becomes the language of deterrence because labels, tied to data, build a case in real time. The SLQ 32 stays thirsty and quiet. It drains in waveforms, frequency steps, pulse shape, dwell changes, and pins habits to each array like fingerprints. Topsides, the weapon's crews stay cold but visible. Safety's on, mounts manned, barrels where they can be seen. Ready, but not begging for a misread. Meanwhile, the Seahawk's MX 20 rolls heat and motion straight into the net. You see exhaust plumes, deckhands shifting stations, small flags rise and fall.
Violating China's terror airspace. Leave now. Leave immediately.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Donald Trump has already withdrawn security guarantees for America's allies in Europe.
So we do a lot of ship tracking. We try to keep up with where China is deploying. In particular, China is deploying its maritime militia in China.
That records and publicizes Chinese ship movements in the disputed areas.
The green laser answers with a non-lethal cue that says the same thing twice: we see you, and we're recording. In gray zone contact, processes armor. Passive observation lowers the odds of a wrong move and builds a forensic trail that wins the after-action fight. Think a chess clock: each emission, each course click stamps time and forces cost on the next move. At the peak, the radar stays in surface track and never tips to fire control tone. A flag waves. Wakes ease. Spacing widens. Data presence resets the geometry. Now that you've seen how the CPA held, let's break down the sensors that made restraint the dominant weapon. If no missiles fly, what wins the round? The waveforms do. You can't bluff in the electromagnetic spectrum. Every pulse leaves a trace. Start with the stack. The ship's spyglass surface picture holds the lanes and plots the hulls. SLQ 32 rides shotgun for EW, catching what the eye can't. CIC runs the classification protocols that turn raw returns into labeled tracks with time marks and context.
And you've also got some Chinese maritime militia coming down from the north to add to this first line of defense that's formed here.
So it's like a busy military highway in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and I would say, up until a couple years ago, this would have been much, much quieter. The second line of defense has already formed back here. I mean, if China decides they're not getting through, they're not getting through.
Overhead, the Seahawks MX-20 ties it together, pushing clean EO/IR frames and metadata into the net. 4 feeds, 1 fused view. But then voice hails go unanswered and the opposing radars step from wide search into active surface tracking. That pivot raises the real question for you: does this jump to targeting, or do logs and lasers freeze the board and make it costly to push? Here's SLQ-32 in plain terms. It listens, not shouts. It maps radar habits like a fingerprint by logging frequency, pulse repetition, pulse width, and dwell, plus how the beam scans and lingers. That catalog is proof of intent without a single burst from the side. Microcase, a short spike in dwell on the lead destroyer's array hints at range gate work. CIC notes it, tags the time, cross-checks bearing rate, and holds posture. They wait for a fire control tell that never shows. No tone. No lock. Just documentation.
He now runs a maritime monitoring unit at Stanford University.
This is Chinese Naval Warship 552.
This is all the Philippines' legal exclusive economic zone.
Sealight has charted a massive build-up since the summer of 2023.
This is where research backs the play. Electronic presence turns every emission into risk for the aggressor because transparency punishes reckless moves. If you radiate, you testify. Meanwhile, the Seahawk adds body language. IR shows fat heat plumes, deck crews shifting to ready spots, small flags raised on the rail. Those frames land beside the EW logs and build a multi-sensor case file that stands up when tempers cool. Process carries weight. The captain's order to stay passive and keep logging, echoed in bilingual transmissions, makes the sea the witness. The message is calm and recorded. The payoff is quiet. Spacing widens, wakes shorten, and both hulls drift to neutral headings. No flare. No flash. Just deterrence by documentation. You've seen how data beats drama, now decide how hard the Navy should push on the next close pass. Comment your choice below. Presence was the weapon, patience the armor. EW logs, disciplined tracks, and a quiet laser cue beat a fast approach without a single round traded. That's the lesson in the edge in gray zone water, deterrence by data, not drama. What would you do at 2.7 nautical miles, hold course or force a turn? Comment your choice below, and subscribe if you want the mindset that wins gray zone fights. The next close pass won't wait. The most decisive shots at sea are often recordings, not missiles. Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict. Your voice sharpens the tactics we carry into the next watch.